All right. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Welcome to the Ambitious Speaker Collective. We are here again. I'll be watching the folks jumping in here, and this is, of course, recorded as a reminder for all of you that are going to say really disparaging things about me and Sarah and all the others. Just be warned that the whole world will hear about it. But this is our monthly kind of Ask the Expert session. As you guys know, we do a monthly community forum as well, where it's more just let's just talk amongst ourselves, what's up. But this month we have the great Sarah here, right?
Yep.
Sarah's here from Philadelphia.
Yep.
Sarah Ohanesian is the she was the former, right? Former president of NSA Philly.
Yes, I'm
Still
officially
serves.
retired from that position.
So you roll through all the different officer ranks and now
Yeah.
you get to just enjoy being a chapter member, right?
Yeah. And now I do work with National. So
What tell me, well, let's just we'll get
yeah,
into that in a second
we'll do
here.
that. Yeah.
I can't do too many things at once. I'm a guy and I'm limited and I'm old and all these different things. But anyway, so welcome to this thing. As you guys know, the way that we do this one, it's really just kind of a 90-minute conversation with Sarah. I'll get us started, but you guys jump in anytime with questions, whether it's audio or going to jump in the chat or whatever. This is really your time to ask whatever questions you have of her. But I'll kind of get us started. And then after about 90 minutes, Sarah can go bye-bye. She can stick around if she wants, but she's committed to 90 minutes, and then the rest of us can hang on and just say, all right, what did we learn? How are we going to apply this to our everyday speaking careers? How can we use that to kind of help each other? So that's the format of today. So Sarah, I guess officially welcome.
Thank
Why don't you
you.
just tell us a little bit about who you are, what the heck's going on?
Yeah, what the heck is going on? That's
Who
a
are you?
great
What's
question,
going
Steve.
I
Let
know.
me explain what the heck's going on.
You're
Yeah,
supposed to answer. Your answer should take 90 minutes.
perfect. I'll explain everything that's going on. Yeah, Sarah Ohanesian. I'm a keynote speaker. I do a lot of corporate training and workshops as well. I am a completely open book, so happy to answer anything. I was a chief marketing officer in my past career, so I did have that kind of corporate experience. And everyone I talked to said, I'm stressed out, I'm burned out, I'm overwhelmed. Like, is this all that there is in life? Like, we work and work and work and then we die. And I thought, oh gosh, that's dire. And I really wanted to do something to help people. I had always been a student of productivity. So I thought, all right, let me start a productivity company. And it was in the middle of a pandemic. So that was coaching, of course, at first, like what else could I do during a global pandemic? And then I transitioned and I started hearing about speaking and oh, you seem like you know what you're talking about. Can you speak at this event? I'm like, yeah, sure. Might be a way to get some clients. And then of course I realized you can get paid to speak and the rest is history. So that's my journey into it. Does that explain everything,
Yeah,
Steve?
that's everything. I guess we're done. I guess we're done here. No, that's perfect. That's kind of the high level that I was looking for, is kind of
Yeah.
get people lay the land. Are you just speaking, or you also have the business going on? A
Yeah.
little bit about your experience, and we'll kind of probe where people want to go. But
Sure.
when did you have your first paid speaking engagement?
Well, it was during the pandemic. So my whole speaking career started virtually. And I think that's important because it's like the game is different now. So I'll admit that I was in a unique time and space, but it was I see there's questions about like outreach and templates already coming in. What was great for me was the network, the people that I know. So really, and my encouragement to you all is like start with who you know, start with the warm network. So it's the local event, it's the library, the Rotary, the chamber, like who do you know that will just put you on a stage? And so that's really where it started. And then from there, those paid opportunities came from stage side leads. They really did. Like referral is the name of the game from
Yeah.
is my business model, which is an organic business model.
That's great though. But you talked a little bit about you've got the company, the business as well, that you're doing the productivity stuff, and we've
Yep.
talked a little bit offline. Kind of where do you want to go with this? Because I think there's people in the room that are like, I'm speaking to get leads for my consulting business or
Hmm.
coaching business or whatever. There's people that, oh, I actually just want to speak. I don't really want to do the other stuff. Some people are doing a mix. Kind of what is your, I guess, either current mix and or I guess kind of what's your desired mix? Like where do you want this to go?
Right. And I think that's a really important question for everybody. Actually, I'll answer it because I'm in the hot seat, but that's the question. And of all my speaker friends, like none of us have the same business. None of us have the same business model exactly. So one of my dear friends yesterday called me and he was like, I am only keynoting. That is all I do. I know, Steve, that's mostly what you do. I'm a combo, right? So I do keynotes, I do workshops, I do corporate training, I will do some virtual. And then I have a productivity consulting company as well, which has a business partner, a separate LLC, and a team there. So for me, I am, I guess, more diversified than some of the people who choose just the keynote model. There's no right or wrong is the answer here. That's what works for me, but I think it's really up to you and what you want. Now, my desire, because the more I speak, the more I want to speak, the more I'm like, this is what lights me on fire. These are the days that I am the happiest. And I have a team in place who can run the client work. So that's the nice part. So now I'm more in the next year or two positioning myself more to be that front keynote speaker. And if you're anybody here that knows marketing, that's the top of the funnel for my business as well. So I do think of it as if I'm on a stage, if I'm speaking, I'm also bringing in leads for this other part of my business. So for me, there's two goals. One is I want to be in the best position that I can be in every single day. And for me personally, that's being on a stage and serving an audience. I also want to feed this business and feed the team, literally. And so I want to make sure that I'm orchestrating things so that the people that I meet over here can also come into this space as well. So two goals there that I keep in mind.
I love that. And we'll start to get into the questions too. I have one more question for you, and then we'll start ticking them off in the chat. So be ready to throw your questions in there, or just be ready to just raise your hand and jump on here or whatever. But we'll kind of pick apart some of this as we go. But just, I know, I met at a speaker showcase a few years ago, kind of been following your career, and it feels like, boy, you're just on fire.
Thanks.
I know that's part of the game as speakers, right? Is we have to make sure we look like we're on fire so people hire
Yeah.
us. But you really are. We've talked
Yeah.
offline. You're doing well. Like, are there any like just high level thoughts? And we can kind of pick into some of this a little bit as we go, but high level, like why have you had the success you've had? Why have you had the momentum you've had? Are you just great on stage? Is it off stage? Is
Right.
it marketing and branding? Like, what, just high level, what are you doing right, do you think?
Sure. Well, first I'd like to address the fact that I'm telling the truth. And I kind of say that jokingly, but like the other comment I've had is I've shown up in event planners who are like, wow, you look exactly like we thought you would look like. Like you're the age that you look like on LinkedIn. I mean, so it's kind of a funny thing, but our reputation in this business is all we have. So if you're inflating your price or how many gigs you're having or what cities you're going to, like I just don't see the point in lying about that. And I actually think it's going to get you into some trouble. So if you're saying I'm a $20,000 speaker, but you've never got 20, like that's lying. And I just think that's not the right way to handle it. And this is such a small business and such a small world. Like literally that friend that called me yesterday, he was like, you spoke at this event next year. Can you put in a good word for me? They love, like this is how this business works. So if you're lying about how many gigs and what your fee is, I just don't think it's going to work out well. So I would always be transparent, always tell the truth and be super honest about what's happening. That being said, I would post, I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm speaking at this event. Thank you so much to these people who hosted me. So I wouldn't be shy about holding it back, but I just wouldn't lie about what's actually happening.
Yeah.
So
And
that's part one.
Yep, right. Go ahead.
Part two is I really believe in being good on stage. The speakers that you remember a few years later, a few months later, the speakers who give you something to actually implement, you remember those things. And for me, where I spend my time is not so much on outreach and trying to cold sell people. I really spend my time on the craft and practicing and being good and showing up really well prepared, tailoring things for that particular client. That results in leads. It's a long game though. So I will say, if you think I'm going to speak on Tuesday and by Friday the phone is going to be ringing off the hook, it just doesn't work that way. I closed a gig this morning in 6 minutes. Okay, so I get an email on Tuesday. We say, oh, when can we talk? We're going to talk on Thursday. In 6 minutes and very brief email exchange, they hired me for a really nice fee because the referral, because someone saw me and they refer me. So the work isn't in like, how do I sell? How do I close? How do I be like that smooth sales operator? It's all the practice. It's all the work that goes in before you step on stage that makes then, this was, 2 years later, that's when it pays dividends. I hope that makes sense for people.
Yeah, no, I love that. I've heard another speaker, someone say, if I had to do it all over again, I would spend all that time I spent on, or at least a good chunk of that time I spent on marketing and branding and business cards and all that kind of stuff development, and just work on my craft.
Hmm.
Just be better on stage, because
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to get referrals than it is to constantly try to find the new blood to hire
Right.
you.
Right.
It's
And so for me, the point in telling that story is to say they had hired me before the phone call started. Meaning,
right.
yes, my website looks good. Yes, I've got a demo video. So I do have the marketing assets in place, but the real work of being good, and then they just come on and validate. That's what the
Mhm.
marketing's for, really just to validate. And then they're saying, let's just double check that she is a decent speaker when she shows up on this call. And it took 6 minutes.
And
So,
that comes back to your part one of being honest, because if all of a sudden you jump on the Zoom with them and you're like, you don't look anything like it, or you speak differently, or
right.
like your voice doesn't sound like your video or whatever, they're going to be like,
Hmm.
oh, wait, red flag here.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So we got the questions starting to pour in. Sarah,
Cool.
what is your preference? Do you prefer to read them and answer them yourself? Do you prefer me to read them, or do you prefer to me just like highlight the person and have them ask you audibly?
Well, speakers like to speak. So if you want to come off, if you're comfortable and you want to ask your own question, that's cool. Otherwise, Steve, I'll follow your lead, whatever's best for
Yeah.
you.
All right. Well, Catherine, why don't you jump on? And I know you got a couple. Go ahead and ask the first one.
I can't really talk right now, but I
Okay.
Okay.
typed it. So sorry. I
I
typed
We
it
got
got
into
it.
you.
the
We got
chat.
it. Perfect.
I'll take care of it. No, no. So her first one said, Sarah, what do you think the most effective outreach template is to get a response on gigs? Is there an email structure you recommend that seems to be the most successful?
I'm the wrong person to ask. I just haven't done a ton of I'll say this. I'm the wrong person to ask about cold outreach. What I do is if I have a warm opportunity, meaning I had lunch with someone, I was his intern 10, no, not 10, 20 years ago. I had lunch with him today, right? Because that's somebody that could potentially, and I'm never going into these things thinking, oh, let me see if I can get gigs, but it's like I'm always networking, I'm always meeting people, I'm always out there. So for me, the goal is just like be nice, be in front of as many people as I can, like serve audiences, serve people, and then eventually that comes back around. So to me, there's no like template except for just be you, be real, be authentic, do what works for you. If you like the cold outreach and the sales and having templates and things, like go for it. I a lot of speakers say it works really really well for them. For me, it's more been behind the scenes. Like I show up, I really rely on my reputation. I really show up on serving people. Um, and to me, there's no template for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
and you
know.
just
I hope
delivered.
that's helpful. Yeah,
Well, let me
yeah,
ask it this way then, just to see if we can probe a little bit. So, to
sure.
put you on the spot, let's say, I tell you, hey, Sarah, I just spoke at this event. I think you'd be great for them. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, the ideal is that I would just do a warm introduction for you myself.
Yeah,
But let's just say, for the sake of this thought experiment and getting Catherine something, let's say I just
yeah.
gave you the name, and they don't know you other than they do know that I recommended you, and you
Hmm.
wanted to shoot them an email. Like, what would you say in that email?
Sure. Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I have templates. I really do. I'm a
Right.
productivity person. So, of course, I have a template and a
Yeah.
spreadsheet and a process for everything. So, I have them. I just don't end up using them that much. But for cold outreach, that's certainly true. Now, for warm, when Steve says, how do you want the template I do have that I use all the time is when Steve says, hey, Sarah, I'd love to recommend you for this event. Can you send me a quick intro? So I'm writing that intro because I don't want Steve to have to do more work. So I'm trying to make it easy on the person recommending me, the person referring me. So I have templates for those types of things. So there's templates for, session description, there's templates for introduction. Those things all are templated. Now, the other type of outreach I've done is let's say Steve spoke at the event the year before, and I just through my, I have a woman who helps me do some research. We find an event. We're like, oh my gosh, Steve spoke there last year. What I will do is say, Steve, if you feel comfortable, if you know these event planners well enough, would you mind making an introduction? Here's my introduction and making that referral. So that kind of thing, I do have template. And if you're talking about like what's effective, that has been way more effective than any kind of cold outreach for me.
Yeah, I've got a few people that we kind of exchange leads on a regular basis too, and we each kind of have that paragraph or two that the other person wrote to say, let me introduce you to this person. Here you go. Here's in their
Mhm.
words, kind of what works.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's
Yeah.
good.
And I think
So go
response
ahead.
time is important
Yep.
also. So, if Steve's like, I got a hot lead for you, Sarah, I don't want Steve to have to wait days and days to get back. It's silly. Nobody's got time for that. So I would say if you're going to have templates, like have those basic marketing
Mm.
assets just literally cut and paste ready to go. I have them on as shortcuts on my computer, so I can literally just do slash intro and it's right there.
I was going to ask you where you keep them. Do you have them, like some of us keep like in a Google Doc where we can search it. Some have different
Mhm.
tools.
Yep.
What do you actually use to keep your templates in? Just shortcuts?
Yeah, I have them in Google Docs so that I can update them over time, but then I have certain things just as shortcuts. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Catherine also asked, with your prior career in marketing, for those of you who just jumped on, Sarah has been a chief marketing officer. Did that pre-existing business network get you kickstarted?
Yes. But that's not an excuse for anyone that feels like they might not have it. And it wasn't necessarily the business network, it was just the network. I mean, who do you know in your community, at church? Who do you work out with? Um, you know, who goes to your synagogue? Like, whatever communities you're in, that network is a gold mine. And again, I think for me, I just try to show up and serve whatever community I'm
Mhm.
in, and I just believe that that pays dividends. So, um,
Yeah,
I think that you all have an existing network, and I think to leverage that's a really big deal.
is there anything you do kind of strategically in those networks, though? I mean, I know your heart is just, like NSA Philly, like get involved, and so I serve, and maybe these
Hmm.
other organizations
Yeah.
get involved and you serve. And there's one thing to just be present and be active and be visible and to, be giving and all that sort of stuff too. Is there
Hmm.
anything that you do on I'll call it sales broadly? Is there anything you do as far as curating some of those connections that you're making to
Yeah.
make sure that they know that you're a speaker, make sure that they know what topics you're talking about, or do you really just keep it as just relational, and if it happens to come up, then you talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised a Midwestern Lutheran, so like I'm here to serve. And I joke like Midwestern Lutherans serve with casserole, right? Like we always have a casserole.
Casserole and lutefisk. Yep.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly. It's always organic first. Like I cannot be fake. I can't. I just it's not in my DNA. So I'm showing up always with the intention of like, how can I help? Today's a really good example. The most of the country is about to have a massive snowstorm. The amount of speakers I'm trying to help place today,
Hmm.
I think my flight's going to get canceled. I don't know if I can get to my gig. Who do you know in this city that can fill in just in case I can't make it? How do you handle when we can talk about this also, Steve, like how do you handle when an event is gonna maybe get canceled, but you're already there? Who pays for the hotel? So like there's a scramble happening right now in the next few days because there's a massive snowstorm that is going
Hmm.
to impact events. And a lot of the big companies have their annual meetings this week coming up. Like I'm going to Vegas for one. And so everybody's right now like, what do we do? So
Hmm.
my posture on that is just let me serve. Let me figure out who
Yep.
do I know. Like, okay, I've got a thing right now in DC. They might need a speaker. All right, let me see who I know in DC that I can connect and fill in. So I guess my strategy is like be nice, help people, and and I just believe that the karma that comes back. Now, I will say I'm not shy also to post. Where am I? What events am I speaking at? What groups am I involved in? I'm really involved in NSA Philly. We will post about that. We will do a group photo and I'll share something there. So I'm, I guess I'm intentional about sharing, posting, but it's always in service. Like I have zero ego, so that sometimes is at my to my fault.
Right. That's good. So just a quick tangent then. So
Yeah.
the placing that you're doing of helping other speakers get placed in places, I've been involved in a little bit of that, but is that part of like your new role with NSA National, or is this
No,
something
it's
you
just
just
it's
event
a
planners know how to reach out to you
yeah,
because of this,
Steve, it is
or
an example of I have
yeah,
positioned myself to serve. So when
yeah,
people this morning started going, "Oh my gosh, this forecast is getting real and it's going to impact the Northeast probably all the way down into like Carolinas and Georgia."
yeah.
Who could help me? I was a name that people thought of.
So planners, is it planners that are reaching out to you?
Yeah, there's
Yeah, I
been a
love
couple
that.
planners, and I've got like three speakers right now who are like, please help, you were the first person I thought of.
Love
So
that.
can I help them? I hope so. Maybe not, but my heart is so full knowing that like you were the first person I thought of when there's
Mhm.
a speaker emergency. I'm like, okay,
Yep. And that comes back, like you said, whether it's
it comes from
whether
service.
whether it's
Yeah.
karma or whether it's just relationship or whatever it is, that stuff does come back. There's
Yeah.
sort of people have that, whether they don't feel guilty, but they sort of have this feel like a little bit of indebtedness to
Mhm.
you.
Right. And
So
that's not
you're
why I'm doing it,
no,
but
I
you're
know.
right.
Yeah.
It happens naturally. It really does. Yeah.
Yep. I
People
love
remember
that.
that kind of stuff.
Desiree, I saw your question in there typed. Do you want to go ahead and just come off mute and ask it?
Yeah. And ironically, Sarah and I met organically through LinkedIn a couple weeks ago, and then I saw
Hmm.
that she was coming up as a speaker on this, so I thought that was pretty cool.
I love it.
But I'm going to ask this in a little bit of a different way than what I typed up, Sarah. But I have no trouble getting referrals and spin-off gigs from workshops. The humor and the sarcasm and the banter back and forth, playing the crowd is like where my humor is, but I struggle in a keynote setting to have the quality of like I want to see her again. I would want to come back. It
Mhm.
almost feels like it gets a little bit stale because I can't play off of the audience as much as I can in a smaller breakout session setting.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on does that come naturally to you and you're no help to me, or do you
That's right. I'm
have
always here to help you.
do you have
Yeah.
thoughts on that? Do you
Yeah.
practice like with a certain, program, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, no, you're right, and at scale, it's even harder. I'm sure like I don't know if you have yet, but like there's situations where it's like, oh my God, these lights are right in my eyes. I can't even see the audience. Like it's like I'm
Yep.
speaking to a black room. So there's some really weird things that can happen, and especially when you're so skilled at what I know you are, Desiree. Like the facilitation is like amazing. We could really get in there. So what I try to do is, and I'm not a stand-up comedian by any stretch of the imagination, but I try to be like relatable and a little bit like ha ha funny in terms of not like rolling on the floor laughing with jokes, but just, oh, that's, Sarah, she gets me. I understand that. So I try to come up with these universally true items that's like everybody can have a little bit of a chuckle like that. And so for me, that's the way that I relate to the audience. So one of the pieces of feedback I get more than anything else is, you're so relatable. I feel like I know you. I feel like you're my best friend. I feel like I could, sit and have a glass of wine with you. And it just feels like that connection is being made. And so for me, it's being universally relatable and just kind of letting the guard down a little bit. One of my friends gave me some really sound advice. He's like, sometimes you go into speaker Sarah mode,
Hmm.
but just stay in Sarah mode. And it was one of the most wonderful pieces of feedback I ever got. And now I'm in Sarah mode all the time because that is more relatable to people. That's where they feel like they get to know me. So still trying to connect even when you can't see them, I think is the way to do it. So I still try to make eye contact even when I can't see them because I know they're out there. And then I try to be just some of these universally true themes that most people are going to relate to.
Yeah, your mode is like upbeat, friendly, big smile on your face. Mine is like aggressively friendly. I'm probably a little more assertive than people would typically like expect from that. So I definitely have to figure out how to rein that back and then go into more of like, yeah, I don't know. I appreciate the sentiment. I just have to figure out how to do that.
And how to do it for you, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the key for everybody. It's like this is a great example. Like everybody's style is so different. And I really believe that if you go on a stage and it's like, that just didn't feel like me, that's not going to resonate either. So it's better to be you, however that is, and find those little ways that you can connect to people. The other thing I do is I am with telling the AV team that I'm going to do it, is I will go into the audience and kind of prowl around a little bit. And that term comes from one of my other friends. He's like, Sarah, you can like prowl. And the way that I do it is a way for me to engage them. Like I'm coming into the audience. And so Desiree, that might work well for you too. Like I'm with you. I'm down here. I'm like kind of getting my hands dirty in the crowd. So I do a lot of that.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
every venue you can't though. So like depending on camera set, like you've got to really run that one past AV and what cameras are running and do we have people on virtual, because you can't do it if it's going to affect someone's experience that might not be in the room. So
will be the first one to fall down the stairs trying to go be a better speaker by joining the audience, though,
Yeah,
just in case
yeah.
anyone's wondering. It will
Yeah.
happen.
On that point, I mean, it's a silly thing. Like I will never, I wear high heels a lot. I will never wear stiletto heels on stage for that reason. I do not want to get stuck in a divot.
I'm 6
Same.
feet tall. I've never worn heels in my life.
You're good. You're safe.
Well, couple follow-ups on that too, and that kind of ties back to a number of you were on the call with Eric Tremundi, and one of the things that he said is, what that shifted for him was, instead of trying to be the smartest person in the room, try to be the most relatable person in the room.
Yeah.
And I think that goes exactly along with what Sarah's saying. And if we try to be relatable in the way that Sarah's relatable, like I couldn't pull it off. Like I just couldn't. Hey, everybody, I'm so awesome, whatever. I just can't do it, right? And people would know. But if I'm relatable in the way that I am, that's going to connect with people. And I think for you, Desiree, you are so relatable. You just are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it might look different than it does with Sarah. But that's okay. Just be true to yourself. And then the other thing is kind of the whole like preacher mode that we get into, or our speaking mode, or like Jen commented, speaking Jen mode, that kind of thing. One piece of advice that I got from a fellow speaker, Simon Anderson, told me, he said, because he kind of caught up on this when I was asking for feedback. He's like, what helped me was to go like pretend that when I'm speaking, pretend I just went away somewhere, I learned something really cool, and now I'm back and I'm telling my friends all about it. Rather than speaking. And I think for me, at least, that flipped a corner to be like, oh, okay, I could just actually be me and share what I've learned and not have to be in some kind of a mode that does that. So I think that's really good.
As part of my brand, like we have the colors and the fonts and all those things. Part of my brand is Coffee Shop with Sarah. Coffee Shop Sarah, because that is who I am, right? I want to just be the girl you can have a cup of coffee with at the coffee shop around the corner. And so anytime like my team and we're working on something, it's like it's got to stay Coffee Shop with Sarah. That's me.
I love that. I think that's a great insight for all of us to kind of what does that piece of our brand look like?
Yeah.
Good. I see your hand, Sherry. I'm going to get to Catherine and one more in the chat, and then we'll go to Sherry.
So
Catherine,
fun. You're all so engaged. I love this.
oh yeah, this is we're ambitious speakers. See, this is not a group for let's just hang out and waste time, right? These are people that we want to grow our business. Like we're serious about trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're engaged. Catherine where's Catherine?
Hi.
Oh, there you're like, I'm like I saw your face, and I'm like I'm looking for the name. Like where? Yeah, go ahead and ask your question. Sorry about
Hi,
that.
and thank you, Sarah, for sharing your insights.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, and this kind of relates to, I guess, a little bit like the speaker Sarah aspect versus like Sarah, and how you tailor your talk for each client. So you mentioned you tailor it. Will you create something completely custom? Is it that you take some modules in and out, and then kind of going from that, like how do you like for different formats that you might do, whether it's like a standalone keynote or whether it's a workshop in a smaller room, how do you adjust how you're speaking to the audience? Because it's kind of like, do you think of them like the same way? Because I think I fall into, I guess, speaker Catherine when it's like to a crowd, but that's like, if you're speaking in a smaller group, it just feels awkward. And I'm curious how you think about that, and also how you tailor your content to like the different modes that you might be speaking in.
Yeah, you got it. And yes, so yes, I'm doing all kinds of modes. I mean, I have had workshops where it's like, okay, it snowed and 3 people could get here. All right. And it's 1,000 people, right? So it's really adjustable. I would say I am always showing up as authentic me, because there is no other way that I can do it. Like that's just what's happening. Now, what I would say is the scale of dramatics, the stage flare goes up and down. So if I'm telling the same story to 10 people in a corporate conference room, I'm dialed back. Like it's less dramatic. It's really like, okay, here's what happened. If I'm on a big stage, my body's bigger. I'm using more of the stage. My voice is more elevated. Like I'm more animated, if you can imagine, in those moments. So it's kind of like, it's the same information a lot of times, but I'm scaling up or down, almost like the volume's up or down depending on the space. And when I say volume, I mean like the whole performance of it changes a little bit. Yeah, because it can be really awkward if like, hello, I have this dramatic story for my keynote, but there's only 4 of us here. Like that's weird.
Right.
Answer your question about format and modules. So I love organizing things, as you might imagine. So I have a spreadsheet that basically has all of my bits, like all of my segments, all of my content that I know works really well. And there are some parts of that that are signature. So for example, this client this morning that said, she told me, she's like, we want dominate your day. That's the talk we want. Here's how long we have. Here's our budget. And I was like, okay, cool. The core of that program, if you will, is the same. If we're doing 45 minutes, if we're doing 90, if we're doing 4 hours, the backbone of it is the same. I just add, and like to Desiree's point, if it's going to be 4 hours and it's training, then you're going to do a lot more of the talking than me. So I just adjust the modules accordingly, but I have a spreadsheet that has every single thing, and that's really what I start with. And then I add, take away basically what I'm not going to do. And the spreadsheet does the math for me. So I know this story typically takes me 5 minutes. This piece of content takes me 10 minutes. And then that actually becomes my outline that I'm working on. So every talk is customized to the point of, I'm speaking to a different industry. I don't want to be talking about, I talked to teachers last week. I don't want to be talking something relevant to them. And now I'm at a insurance conference. Like, that doesn't translate. So I'm always trying to make it about them, but the core bits are the same. So I work off a spreadsheet, figure out my timing, and then slides go after that. But I pretty much know how long the segments typically take.
Right. Thank you. That was so helpful. It also gives me an idea for like something else I can use ChatGPT agent for.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, build this. Here's my keynote. Put the story into spreadsheets.
Totally. You could take the whole thing and say, yeah, group this into segments. How could this work? And then it would probably even say, help me build this into a 4-hour workshop or something, or take the 4-hour workshop. How would I scale this down? So it could probably help you with that as well. I kind of did this all before AI.
Right. No, I was just
like,
thinking
it's easier now.
Oh.
Totally. I think it's great. Yeah.
Just as a quick follow-up to that then. So Sarah, sorry to make you wait longer, Sherry, but just really quick on that. So when you work on your craft, when you work on your talk, do you work on your entire talk then? Or because you're organized in bits, do you sort of like identify which bits are the weakest that you want to improve?
Yeah.
Like, what is your process for actually improving your on stage performance?
Yeah, my dog really loves my content, so he is my audience all the time. What I do, so at the beginning, it was more of like, we have a talk coming up, can you do it? And I was like, yeah. I'll talk about that. So over time, it's like, oh, this is what works. This is the content that resonated. This is the part the audience said they loved. In the feedback form, this was the section that they said something about. So I have over time, it was like, yes, I was working at a whole talk at a time. And then over time, it's like, oh, these are the core talks that I now have. From there, now I'm at a stage where I'm tweaking a section at a time, basically. I'm going back and I always record and watch, I call it the game tape. Like, I always watch the game tape, as painful as that could be. But it is, Steve, it is kind of amazing what you learn. And even to hear where the audience does, right, like where they chuckled, where they gave a little laugh, and you're like, oh, that gets a little laugh there every single time. Now I know that's a little bit funny. And so I then try to work on a segment at a time, basically, now. But yeah, it's a whole process to get there for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Sherry.
Well, thank you, Catherine, for asking that question, because that's really a lot of mine, but now I have additional questions from that. So you have, so what I've been trying to do, because I've done a lot of workshops and I feel like I have the core content and I can expand and condense it. But I really like audience interaction. And I do have a habit of kind of fire hosing. So I'm getting better at that and taking things out. Do you, I guess, given that you go back and forth between keynotes and workshops and training and all the things, do you have just any tips about that to ensure that you're still providing something with some core content, you're still engaging them to some degree, and you're not taking too much out? Yeah, just anything you can provide would be helpful around that.
Sure. I'll share how I think about it, and maybe that would be helpful. So the other interesting thing is, Steve, I don't know how much you've talked about this. It's like, what is a keynote? What is a workshop? What is a training? Now there's this like kind of a key shop concept happening where the event planners are like, oh, we have 90 minutes. I'm like, no one wants to listen to one person for 90 minutes. So we're workshopping a little bit in a key, like they want the keynote, but and again, I think of a keynote as like a big idea where we're sharing something we haven't heard of or thought of before. So it's more of that like, aha, I had a revelation listening to your keynote. And the workshop is more, are we implementing it? That's how I think about it. I think if we interviewed 20 event planners, they would all have a different definition for a keynote in a workshop and a training session. But anyways, for me, I have a true keynote. I have a true keynote that is a bigger message that is more made to make you think. There's really no implementation on that. So that's like a true, pure keynote. If they want 90 minutes, well, now we have some time to implement some of those concepts. If they want a workshop on that concept, I can take that concept and expand it. So I think it's important to have like a true keynote, like something where if someone says, Terry, can you do our keynote? You're like, yeah, this is a keynote talk. This is one topic. I'm going to unpack it brilliantly, and I'm going to present this core concept, and these people's minds are going to go, whoa, that's a true keynote. Can it be expanded to a workshop? Yes. So that's how I think about it. Where other parts of my program, I've got a program on the Amazing Meetings Playbook, how to have better meetings. Like that's a workshop. That's really not a keynote. One time somebody, but like it's a workshop at the end of the day. And so I know what lane the talk is fundamentally in, and then I can adjust it from there if I need to. So it's kind of helping with those. What are those modules? And really, how much time do we have is a big factor.
And can I ask a follow-up question to
Yeah,
that? So
fire away.
Sorry, Steve, I didn't allow you to answer. I just went ahead.
You knew my answer already.
So do you change the name of your keynote based upon the needs of the audience, or do you just say, yeah, I can do a keynote and here's what it's called?
Yeah, I typically do not change the name because actually now, this morning is a good example. The lady said, we want Dominate Your Day. Like that has become associated with my brand, which is really cool. Like, and I think you're onto something when the client calls you and says, we want this specific title. It's like, okay. So I intentionally name, I'm a big fan of like name it and claim it, which is a Christine Cashin term. So shout out to Christine. I name almost everything. So even segments in my talk have these little somewhat clever like branded names because I want the audience to come back to those things. I want when you're in your office 2 weeks from now, your team is using those terms that I taught you. And so for me, like using the same language, saying dominate your day, saying productivity pitfalls, like I am just honing in on some of these same concepts all the time. That's worked really, really well for me because then people are using my branding to say what they want from me, which also makes the business easier.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
What I'm customizing is potentially a story, potentially certainly an example. So if I'm giving an example, that's where I'm doing more of the customization. Yeah.
And so if it was let's say the theme of a conference that you went to was emotional intelligence, you still have the same title of your talk. Would you just talk maybe more about emotional intelligence?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So I might swell in a certain space. So I might say, all right, normally I spend 3 minutes here, but because this is the theme of the conference, I'm going to spend 10 minutes here. I'm going to like double click on that for the purpose of this conference. My arc is still the same. Like I'm still giving a functionally the same talk. The outcome's going to be the same, but I'm just going to lean into certain sections a little bit more for certain audiences. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I've got a couple of modules that can come in and out. So I've got a couple of modules that are like my flex modules. And so I'll ask the client, what hurts? Where's the pain? And when they say certain things, I put that specific module in versus this module because they specifically said that's one of their pains. Like that's the module for them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so if you get a pain point that's new or you don't have a bit about that, you don't have a segment for that, you create it, I assume, and then you add it to your spreadsheet. I mean, let's assume you kind of write a new one, you create it, then you throw it in your spreadsheet so you have another option there for future.
Yeah, I think I'm really good at being in my lane. So I also, if a client says, can you talk about that? I'm like, not really. I'd rather refer Desiree for that because Desiree is the expert on that, right? So I think that's another way to be helpful to people is when you've got a client that says, oh, can you do this? It's like, no, but I know the best person who can. So to me, again, that is a way for me to serve. That is a way that it's easier for me. It doesn't put me in a bad position. And the next year when they want productivity and time management, then I'm the right fit for them. So I'm pretty good about not trying to fit in a square peg in a round hole. But yeah, certainly, Steve, that's how most of the talks were developed in the first place. A client said, hey, can you talk about this? Can you talk a little bit more about that? I'm like, yeah, totally. I mean, that's in my lane. And that's what you want. Like that's how you listen to the market and give the people what they're asking for. So yeah, Steve, 100%. But if it's in my lane, in my wheelhouse, I'm not going to start talking about, like you said, emotional intelligence. Like I don't talk about that. So I'm not going to add that in all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Would you say though that, like, I know we've had other speakers talk about this, and I'm guessing you're the same way, that I think for all of us, I think becoming a master at retrofitting what they want into what we deliver, right? Like, I mean, there's because somebody could say, well, hey, Sarah, can you talk about burnout? And some people might say, well, no, I'm not, I'm not a burnout speaker, but you're like, well, you're a productivity speaker, and that obviously is tied to burnout. So you become a master at saying, well, I'm not a burnout speaker, but one of the leading drivers of burnout is lack of productivity or whatever. And so you kind of tie it in. Would you say that's, instead of
100%.
just dismissing and say that's not my lane, becoming a master at how do I answer that question without being an expert in that area?
Oh yeah, my brand leads with productivity. Am I a burnout speaker? 100%. Like when we're not being productive, we're getting burned out. Like that is the cycle. So yes, I love this, Steve. You're bringing up such a good point. It's like there's your lane, and then like there's the lanes adjacent, right? It's like I'm in the center lane, but there's a right lane and a left lane. I think you need to be mindful of what those categories are as well. I'm talking more about, oh, can you start talking about gardening? It's like, no. So a burnout is a very adjacent topic to productivity. Time management is, delegation is, effective communication, running effective meet. Like some of that stuff is really like it's right there. So I will bring that stuff in upon client request because that's then one of the modules that comes forward. But I would do that exercise for everybody. It's like, what's your center lane? And then what are those topics that are right there that you're like, yeah, that is helpful if I can go into those lanes as well. Yeah. But you don't want to be, this isn't an LA freeway. This is like a small road in Pennsylvania. There's only 2 or 3 lanes. Like this is not, I'm 6 lanes over here, if that makes sense.
But I'm guessing if somebody said, can you speak about gardening? You'd be like, well, I can create a system for your garden. I mean, you'd probably be like,
of course. Yeah. And to that point, I speak across, oh my gosh, so many different industries. Like it has been the most wonderful, exciting. I have learned about everything. I mean, it's incredible the amount of different spaces I've been speaking to, but it's always in productivity, burnout, time. Like that's where it is. It is not way over here. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sherry.
I was just going to ask if you modify the description and objectives or takeaways from your talks then.
Yeah, I usually do, especially if they've given me like really, really concrete pain points. So to the point earlier, do I have a template? Yes, of course. I've got the session description if they say, send us your generic one, that's it. But after the call with them, if I can pull in some of the language that they actually use. So if they call it burnout, if they call it disengagement, I want to use those exact words and put those into the session description. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Now I'm really done.
Yeah, I'm changing sentences. I'm not changing like the talk or what I'm delivering.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, that makes sense.
You don't have to be done, Sherry. Keep asking questions. But in the meantime, we do have
I'm done for now. I'm done for now.
Go ahead, Jen.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Sarah.
You too.
One thing that's coming up for me is I have a gig for something in May, and it's with a group that I've actually don't know anything about, which is exciting because I love doing research. I come from a fraud investigation background, so I love research. Cool. But I'd love to hear from you, since you're a systems person and organization and all that. What does your pre-event planning look like, and or how do you customize your content based on what information you're gathering in terms of the event and what they're hoping to do?
Yeah. I will also be really transparent. If the event is next week and I have had a super, super busy week, like I haven't had a ton of time, like there's times I'm like, I gotta give the talk I gave last week. Like exactly. Because there's months that are just like April and May and like some of it is really, really, really busy. And if you're gonna try to learn 10 variations on a theme, you might get yourself a little bit screwed up. So you're going to be better. Again, I'm always like, I need to be as good as I can be for this audience. If me trying to overly customize is going to not make me as good of a speaker that day, I'm really honest with myself about that. So I hope that that's helpful. But yeah, the customization is happening based on what they're telling me, and then I'm filling in appropriately, right? So I'm filling in like how much of this really needs to be adjusted. So it's kind of getting back to the other question. So does that help, or do you want to ask like more about your specific question? I don't think I answered it fully.
Yeah, oh, I totally understand the double-edged sword of customizing too much so that you're
Yeah,
losing the impact you're leaving there. I guess my question was more around what is the important data for you to receive from the client in
yeah.
order to speak to the right language for that particular
Perfect.
audience?
Okay. So I've got a template that I use for this, and it's just what are the core questions that I want to be asking them? A lot around audience pain points, like what hurts, what sometimes I ask what speakers have you had in the past and what did you like or dislike about those speakers? Because I don't know where Desiree went on my screen. Um, to Desiree's point, if they're like, yeah, we had this really crazy, funny comedian, but like the audience actually didn't love it. They're kind of more serious. They're accountants. Like they wanted someone more straight laced. Like that's actually really good feedback. So I try to gauge like what is this audience going to look like and feel like, and what level of the organization are they in? A question I ask a lot is how much autonomy do they have? There's audiences that come in, they're like, yep, we can't do anything about this. We cannot make a change and we don't want to. That is very different than the people who paid their own way to be at a conference and they're gung ho and they want to do everything. So I like to get a vibe essentially on like, what type of audience am I walking into here? From a research side, I usually have a woman on my team just do a little bit of research ahead of time. Like, what's this company all about? Are there any major obstacles they've just been through? I do a lot of pharmaceutical work. There are layoffs and mergers and acquisitions all the time. So I want to be mindful before I'm going into a call, like, oh my God, they just laid off 40% of this team. I want to know that before I hop on a call with people. It's also a question I ask. Is there anything? And I usually ask it again, like in my 1 or 2 weeks before. I usually ask one more time, like, has anything changed that I should know about before our last conversation? If there's a new CEO and everybody hates them since the last time we talked, I want to know about that. So I have this questionnaire that I go through pretty diligently to make sure I'm getting the questions answered.
Thank you. That does answer what I was looking for. And I love the follow-up like a week or two before the actual event, just to confirm,
Oh
did
yeah.
anything else change? Because things do change that quickly.
Oh, dramatically. Yeah.
And as part of that, Sarah, do you ever like either ask, or I guess if they ask, you'll do it, I'm sure, but do you ever ask to speak to different parts of the company or to,
Mhm.
tour a facility depending on where you are and those sorts of things? I mean, do you take your background at that sort of level?
It depends. And again, part of this is like the luck of the draw. Like, what's the schedule like right now? How
Right.
much time do we have? I would love to spend hours and hours researching and prepping for everything, but sometimes we don't have that luxury. So yeah, I've done really successfully like interviews with key people of the team. Who should I be talking to before the event? Sometimes the CEO like really wants to be involved and they've got a lot of opinions on what's happening in that keynote or in that session, and other times they don't want to be involved at all. So I like to know that level. The other thing, depending on workshop keynote, sometimes it really matters to me if the leaders are in the room, depending on what session I'm offering. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it will make or break a session if the leaders are in the room, because that says these leaders are here supporting you guys. They're not saying you're not productive. They're here to do the work with you alongside you. So that's a question I often try to gauge as well. Who are the leaders? Are they going to be there that day?
Nice. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll keep going on my list. All right, feel free to just jump in if you have some, but I want to talk a little bit about like brand differentiation a little bit,
Hmm.
and just kind of pick your brain on how you think about this, because I know there's different camps out there, and there's kind of this idea of, well, you need to know what bucket you fit in so that bureaus or planners know that you are a leadership speaker or a productivity expert, or the kind of the bucket. Yet you also need to have this differentiator, kind of this category of one thing, so you're the unique voice selling in that place. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes we get stuck between that, like, well, we get too vague by just defining our thing that we don't have a differentiator, or we get so creative and cute with our differentiator, people don't
No
really
one
know
knows
what
what it
bucket we're
means.
in. And so whether that's, I don't know if that's brand or what that really is, but can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about how you think about branding like that and target markets and all those different pieces?
Yeah. And Steve's really right. At the end of the day, sometimes there's just a form. And all you're going to get is to check a box on a form that says you're a leadership speaker. And you're
Mhm.
like, do I get to explain any further? No, you do
Right.
not. So I think it's important to know what bigger lane you are in. And those categories are, we just added AI, but for the most part, like those are categories that have been around for quite a while. And so but then yes, Steve, you're right. To be within, I mean, how many leadership speakers exist? A lot. How are you differentiating yourself from there? So that's where I think a signature story, a signature bit. um, Jay Bear is really well known in this space. Like he wears a plaid suit, like that becomes part of the brand. So is all of it brand? Yes. I think it's important to be intentional about your brand and your actions and what you're doing. But I think one is to know that broader category that you're in, and then part two is, yeah, having something the specific that you really lean into in that space. I lean into neurodiversity. So I know a lot about neurodiversity. And so when I'm talking about productivity, I'm always mindful of there's different brains on the team. The version of productivity that I can do is very different than the version that someone who perhaps has ADHD can do. And I speak to that because my business partner has ADHD, he's autistic. We cannot do productivity the same way. So
Mhm.
one of my differentiators is yes, it's productivity, but there's this neurodiverse twist to it that I'm very mindful of. So maybe I hope that's a good example, Steve.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then I guess kind of expanding on that a little bit, what would be your, I mean, advice slash whatever for those of us who are, still kind of like in this place where like, well, I'm not doing 70 talks a year. I'll speak to anybody about anything because I just want to get this momentum going. And
Mhm.
so I'm gonna, what box are you? I can talk about leadership. I can talk about, I
Yeah,
can be a motivational speaker. I can talk about the future work. I can even talk about AI. Like because we can, like a lot of people, we're smart
sure.
people. We can talk about all these things, but how do you wrestle with that, or how did you wrestle with that, or what advice would you have for those of us who are like, well, I don't want to pick a lane because that means I'm going to be missing out on all of these other things potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So there's kind of two schools of thought that I understand. Mine is I wanted to really own the productivity space. Like I want to be in the productivity lane. Someone called me last week and he says, "Sarah, when I think of productivity, I think of you." I was like, "Yes, like that's what I'm going for." So for me, I named my LLC So Productive. Um, I I knew all along that I love that space. I'm not going to get, hope, probably not sick of that space. I live and breathe that. So for me, I am passionate about it. I would say you got to pay attention to what you're passionate about. So my business partner, Jeff, right, he's a speaker too. He is checking every box. He's like, I speak about this, this, and this because I told you earlier, he's ADHD, he's autistic. He cannot put himself in a lane, in a box. He just can't do it.
Hmm.
And it works for him. So there's no right or wrong, but I think if you're trying to pigeonhole yourself too much, you're going to feel stifled, and that's not authentic and that's not you. But at the same time, if event planners and meeting planners don't know, hey, Steve's the guy for this, they don't know when to call you. So
Hmm.
so that's the challenge. I think you got to find what are you passionate about? What do you love? And if you're lucky enough to be able to lean into a certain topic, awesome. If you want to be more a jack of all trades, that's cool. Maybe you have to differentiate yourself in another way.
Hmm. And I
Yeah,
would
because
you say one of the advantages of, you like you say, do it either way, but one of the advantages
yeah,
of sort of saying I'm in the productivity space is then if you have free time to read or to research, you sort of know what you're doing, right? You can kind of become
sure.
more and more of an expert in that. versus just kind of a generalist.
Yeah, and for me, I like that. I like going
Mhm.
deep and learning more about one topic. Where I've been able to have some diversity in my life is the clients. The clients' industries are changing all the time. They're different all the time. So I get my intellectual stimulation from that, but my lane is really being here. And I mean, most industries are also changing all the time. So if you keep up with the research in your own industry, your own niche, like there's always a lot to learn anyways. But I think it really comes down to like follow your passion and what makes you happy. Because if you're like, I'm gonna pick a burnout because that's probably a hot topic right now, but you don't like learning about burnout, it's not interesting to you, you're gonna burn out fast. So I think it's really important. Like, what do you want? You started the call with that. So like, what do you want? What are you good at? What are you naturally gravitating towards? I never set out to be someone who talks about neurodiversity. Never. It was not even really too much on my radar. My business partner deals with this every single day. And so I literally felt called to help and support people who are dealing with different diversities at work. Like, I can't not talk about it. I am now passionate about that. 5 years ago, I had no idea I would be. So part of it is pay attention to when you're like, oh my God, that conversation, that talk, that one, that's the one that lit me on fire. When I speak about that, like I get chills. Those are the topics that you should be talking about.
I love that. Yeah, I've been in the process of sort of like streamlining or expanding or contracting, whatever, what talks do I deliver? And I'm like, this is a really good talk. But I just, every time I deliver it, I'm just like, I don't know. It's well received, but I'm just like, And I think exactly that. Like, so I could keep going on that road or you pay attention to what gives you life because people do pick up
Yeah.
on it for sure.
If you don't love it, they're not going to love it either.
Yeah. So
No one's going to love it as much as you.
right. That's true. So kind of keep going on the same idea of differentiation and things too. You mentioned you work a lot with pharmaceutical companies. I'm kind of want to talk a little bit about target market and the importance or lack thereof of defining target markets. Like we always, we get that question all the time. What's your target market? What's your target market? And I think for a lot of speakers, some do have like a specific, I go after whatever. And some are like, no, my message sort of crosses like productivity and you just kind of go wherever. And so I don't know if you've defined pharmaceuticals as a target market or just so happens that a lot of them are hearing about you and hiring you. Like, how do you think about target market, the importance of that? Who's it important for? Who's it not important for? How do you think about that?
So the marketer in me was like, okay, you must know, it's a 45-year-old woman who drives a minivan, who has 2 children, who has 1 dog, who's married this many years. Like, that's what I wanted. Like, I wanted that so
avatar.
specific market niche, the avatar. Yeah. Just didn't happen. Because I was speaking at these events and this person was coming up to me afterwards and this person and this event planner. And then, so it just didn't happen the way that I was trying so hard as the marketer to get it to be this specific niche. So what happened for me was the niche was productivity. The audience is changing all the time. Now, that being said, now that I've been doing this for a while, some of those audience niches start to emerge. In the pharmaceutical space, when you can start to speak that language, their language, well, they notice. And now you can speak that language to the next pharmaceutical company because they don't have to teach you about pharmaceuticals. You already know. So you naturally then kind of niche in. The more you speak to certain types of groups, it's a snowball effect. You get momentum in those certain industries. So I never set out to do pharmaceutical work. Never. I knew not one thing about it. I hate blood, like can't stand the sight of needles. It just happened. Like I got a client in that space and then I got another client. And so it snowballed from there. And now I can speak very somewhat intelligently in that space. So now when I'm on a sales call and I'm speaking their language and I can say, these are the other pharmaceutical clients I've worked with, they're like, oh, you're an easier yes because you know something about our space. So I think anytime you can niche in, it's fantastic. But I just don't know if you can force it too soon. And you might be doing yourself a disservice to say, all right, I'm going to speak in hospitality only. Well, your best market might be sitting right over here and you don't know it. If I would have said no to pharmaceuticals because I knew nothing about it, I mean, like millions of dollars I wouldn't have made. So.
Yeah. And so I know you don't do a lot of cold outreach. You do very limited cold outreach at this point, but if you did, or like most of us are doing some form of outreach,
Mhm.
would that be your target market? Would you look for like, okay, I've got some momentum in pharmaceuticals, so why not reach out to other pharmaceuticals
Yeah.
because I can drop names and I can do that? Or would you think about outreach differently in regard to target market?
Yeah, so now that I have, been in this a little while, that network grows. So when I looked at
Mhm.
my LinkedIn now, there's more pharmaceutical people there. There's more. So, right? So like the more you speak in a certain space, naturally your network grows in that space. Now I know this person at this company. Oh, and now they've moved to this company a couple years later. Well, now I can speak to that company. So the again, I think the theme of today is organic. The organic nature of this is as you do more in a certain space, your network grows in that space. You're going to know more people in that space. You can ask for more referrals in that space. And so the depth of that industry, it happens naturally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's okay, could have put you have to have wear you have to probably wear both. Oh, hey Sherry, bye. You have to kind of wear both your marketing hat and your speaker hat at this point. But I just kind of I'll leave it
Uh-huh.
as kind of an open-ended question, and people can kind of chime in with their specific questions related to it. But I'm curious your perspective on social media. I mean, obviously I see
Mm.
what you do, but in general, I mean, as you think about social media for speakers, especially I would say like, emerging speakers or people that want to grow specifically, not
Mhm.
just, kind of saying, here's what I did, but like those of us who are trying to grow the business, trying to get new contacts, trying to get the word out of what we do, trying to have credibility if people search on us, like how should we be thinking about social media?
Yeah. To me, listen, if it was just me and there was no business side to it, I wouldn't even have social media. I don't really care about it. From a like ego likes, I don't have any of that. I don't love to do it. It is a completely necessary evil in my opinion.
Hmm.
Unless we are astronauts and movie stars and some of those people who everybody knows, like I don't know how else people really get to know you. And so for me, I've really done more focus on LinkedIn. Like if I'm sending people somewhere, I'm sending them to LinkedIn. uh, my Instagram's so, but it's important because today, as an example, that client wanted to hire me before we got on the sales call. Like when she emailed me to say, "Are you available this date?" I was 95% already booked. What contributes to that? Probably social media. Like she probably checked out my social media. She probably said, "Okay, she doesn't seem like a completely lunatic. Maybe we should hire her," right? So I think it's a part of the ecosystem of your brand and your marketing, and it's just the way they look for that now. It's the part of it.
Do you see it then, like for most speakers, as a tool to try to make contacts to find speaking gigs, or do you see it more as it's a necessary evil because of the credibility piece? So if somebody finds your name and searches on you, they can look at that and see there's clips or there's credibility there. So do you see it
Yeah.
more outreach versus, or do you see more credibility?
I think you can do either, of course. I mean, I think it could be fantastic for outreach. I mean, what a treasure trove of people who have connected with you, presumably like you, and are in your network. I mean, I think it would be amazing for outreach. For me, I just haven't really used it for that. But like, look at Desiree, right? Like,
Mhm.
Desiree connected with me on LinkedIn. Like, she slid into my DMs, and I was like, "Hey, you seem cool. Like, let's chat." But what did I do before saying yes to her? I looked at her
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I was like, "This seems like a real person. Seems like a quality person. Okay, like let's have a conversation." And now we've got a friendship here. So I think for me, it's like it's a window shopping that's happening. They're window shopping, and they've got a lot of speakers that they can choose. And so one of the windows they're looking at is like LinkedIn, website, speaker reel. If all those things check out, then you might get a chance to have a sales call.
What's your perspective on the different platforms in general again too? So you mentioned LinkedIn, you said, you're somewhat active on Instagram, but obviously, Facebook's out there, TikTok's out there, YouTube's out
Yeah,
there, and we can be like, oh, we gotta do everything and I go crazy. And
right.
maybe some people have the capacity or they have a team or whatever. But for,
Yeah.
for those of us who are either newer, emerging, stuck, want to grow, whatever it is, what platforms do you think are either best for connections or
Mhm.
best for credibility?
So for me, it's been LinkedIn. but I am a mostly corporate speaker, association speaker. So my audience is on LinkedIn. So I think that's a really key piece is where's your audience, right? If they're farmers, like maybe there's a social media platform, I don't know. But like go where the audience that you want to serve already is. And I would also say go where your network is. So we've talked about this also. Like if your whole network is on TikTok and that's where you've established, we should buy that. If your whole network is already on TikTok and you've been crushing TikTok for the last couple of years, like use TikTok, like do what works for you, do what you like. For me, it's been LinkedIn, and I give myself grace. I'm like, I don't have time to be spending hours and hours on social media curating all this content. I just don't. I wish I did. I'm jealous of some of the people that can. So I feel like I'm doing the bare minimum to stay relevant and post a reasonable amount. But I don't have time to do more than that. So for you, if you're like, okay, I have a slower week right now, do more on social media. Great. The weeks that you don't have the time because you're on the road speaking, give yourself some grace. Don't post as much that week. Like I think there's so much pressure to do it and do it so well. So it's like give yourself some grace, but do try to show up consistently because I think it's important, but I don't think we should be making ourselves nuts about it either.
Yeah, and I think you hinted at the idea, like, your business model, you're doing consulting, you've got a team doing consulting, and you're
Yeah.
speaking, like, some of us that are just more pure speakers, like, I got all kinds of time to do social media if I wanted to. Like, I
Right.
mean,
Steve, I'm going to
so,
send you my login. You can do it.
right,
Awesome.
exactly. Oh, I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm just
You're
saying,
hired.
but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of depends on your model. And like you said, you kind of hinted at too, who are you targeting here and where do they hang out? And I'm
Yeah.
sorry to break it to you, farmersonly.com is actually taken, Sarah. It's a dating site for farmers. So that's why I put that in there. So, um, that's already taken. So don't get any other business ideas there.
Oh man. Oh man.
Uh,
But yeah, I hope today one of the themes coming through is like, what are you passionate about? Where are you good? Where do you shine? If you're a rock star TikTok dancer, like do that. Do more of what is you and
yeah.
authentically you. Like let people find you in the space. Like I really believe in attracting people rather than me trying to find people. Like if I'm for you, like, cool, let's be friends. I mean, Steve and I met at an event,
Yeah.
and this was a couple of years ago, and we're still friends.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why exactly. We were just like, hey, we seem cool, let's be friends. And now here we are. So I want to attract people, not be like, hey, I've got a series of emails that I put you through, and the seventh one finally made you buy because now my keynote's $9.99. Like, it's just not my style. So I'm trying to attract the right people who want to be working with me.
And what's attractive and is authenticity, right? And I think more and more as the world goes more technological, and that authenticity is there. And I think, yeah, if people are drawn to, not everybody's going to be drawn to. I hate to break it to you. I've learned this the hard
Yeah,
way.
I am
Much
not for everyone.
as
I
much as I've
promise.
tried, there are a lot of people that
Yeah.
don't like me, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm a good guy, but people, so why pretend? Just be who you are, and you'll attract a certain people, and the people that are attracted are actually going to be attracted and potentially could hire you for events. But I think we do try to be, walk in the middle of the road and whatever. I think just be you, whatever that is. If you're dancing on TikTok,
100%.
good, good, yeah.
It's going to be really hard and you're going to burn out if you're trying to do something that doesn't feel like it's actually you.
It's exhausting. Say,
Yeah.
Tom, I see your handwritten comment there. Do you want to just go ahead and jump on audio and ask it?
Yeah, thanks, Steve, and good to meet you, Sarah. I still work at full-time at a large university, and I've done one event, one engagement for another group on campus, and through that, there was all sorts of conflict of interest paperwork and
Oh.
things I had to sign off on that I didn't fully understand. But a few people said, make sure you keep your outside work separate from your regular work on LinkedIn. And so I have a company profile that's got 135 followers, whereas my personal has many, many more
Yeah.
than that. And
Yeah.
so I know this is a really small, unique question, but for you or anybody here, I'm just curious. I see the question about restrictions. Um, Not necessarily. I think I could post what I wanted on my LinkedIn. I just don't want people to see, when does Tom actually work? It looks like he's juggling all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so is there a balance or any thoughts anybody has on this?
Yeah, I think the company page thing's hard, right? Like it's just like people just don't see it, so it's hard. The positioning, and again, this comes from, I don't know who said this. Some of the podcasts I listened to said this, like to frame it even potentially to, and maybe in your case, Tom, you can't, but if you have an employer, to frame it as like, I'm actually going to go out and speak, like, but it helps the organization. Like I'm representing this organization as the chief marketing officer of this organization. That actually helps us. So I've heard some speakers have success with how they position their speaking as actually something that serves the greater business. I don't know if you have that luxury.
Yeah, I don't know if others
Thank
have
you.
thoughts on that too. Yeah, I
Can I
don't know, Tom.
comment on
That's
that?
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Desiree, I saw your hand raised. That's for that. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So two things. First off, company pages rarely get into the algorithm of seeing new people. So you're probably never going to get anywhere with that. They only see your stuff if they follow you. So it's kind of an uphill battle. But the other thing I will say is you can create a second LinkedIn profile with a new email address and you can just call it Tom Hicks Speaks or something along those lines. Then if and when you no longer work for the university, you could delete that other profile so you're not on there twice. But I have seen a couple of people who've created two, and one of them is differentiated from their wherever they're working because they do have restrictions on it. You might still need to get permission to be on there in that way, but that would just be one way you could kind of skirt around it without having to use the company profile or your company profile.
And nothing's prevented me from doing this. It's more just friends and other people, who do this work saying, you know what, you're supposed to be working 40 hours a week, but you had 3 engagements this week, and I can't explain, oh, I took vacation for all of those. And so just it's more of a perception rather than a rule thing. And so just trying to get a sense. That second profile is interesting to me. So I'll take a look into that, see if that might be useful.
And Tom, from a productivity perspective, maybe you're just like, hey, I feel like I need to share what's really going on here. And be like, I worked all weekend because I have these opportunities. Like, I'm so excited to be here. Like, it was worth the extra effort to get all my work done at night so that I could be with this group today. I mean, maybe it's just something you kind of lean into as part of your brand. Like, you're the guy who kind of does it all.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Thanks, Sarah.
Can I
Yeah.
say
Also,
one more
one
thing that might be kind of controversial? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't hear who was speaking. Just one more thing to add, Tom, because when I started my business, I was side hustling at a corporate job, and I spent way too much time on Facebook and all of the platforms back then, back when ads weren't required on Facebook. And I mean, you have full permission to not post things publicly, but you can still make those connections happen behind the scenes. Like a lot of people lurk on LinkedIn, but don't post anything publicly. So you have full permission to lurk on people, send them messages, connect more privately without having to publish a bunch of things or keep up with appearances or whatever. So, and those connections can sometimes be the most meaningful connections as well.
Okay, so what I was going to say that's slightly controversial is if someone is perceiving you to not be working hard enough on your full-time job, it's probably because they're jealous of the success that you're having outside of said job, and they wish that they could be doing what you're doing. So I only say that because I've heard rumors of people saying like, who does she think she is to go and build this thing? And it's usually people who aren't willing to work as hard as you. So I know that might, like I said, be controversial, but I don't want you to lose opportunities to create those connections simply because of what other people might think.
Yeah.
That's well said. I'm curious, yeah, what I don't know, but like just a conversation with HR if you haven't already, just to kind of put it out there and just say, hey, here's the deal. I'm working full time. I'm going to honor all my commitments, but I want to build this side hustle. Just sort of have an agreement to kind of a general understand. I don't know. Maybe you've done that. I don't even know if that's right, but I'm just thinking like from almost a CYA perspective, if you have the conversation with HR, then if anything comes to you, it's like, well, I talked to HR, they're cool with this or whatever. But because I mean, just from a LinkedIn connection, I'd love to be able to see you leverage that whole network that you have on your main profile versus trying to build something from scratch.
Yeah, I have had that conversation. HR is fine with it. And actually, our brand new HR director just booked me for an annual conference
Sweet.
for an outside organization. And so I'm less worried about that. In Iowa, higher education is under the microscope right now. And so
Mhm.
I don't want to make myself sound bigger than I really am, but I don't want to trigger something or somebody, I don't want my boss to have to spend, he's totally fine with everything. I don't want anybody to have to spend any extra time being like, oh, we need to make sure Tom is working, the hours he's supposed to
Mhm.
be working. And so I appreciate this discussion and was just I've got a couple of things that are worth trying out. I'm going to start inserting a little bit more. I also, when I got this new job 3 years ago, I kind of made it a thing for me to post on LinkedIn about my work or something associated with that once a week, just to have a presence out there. And so I might start going every other or once a month,
Mhm.
just to put it out there because I get a much better response when I post personal instead of business.
That's interesting.
I
Well,
think, Tom, when you're balancing it too, like post about the university, post about your job, post about your family, post about speaking. It's like it's this holistic Tom, and it feels balanced. If it's just, oh, Tom only posts about speaking, well, now it does feel like maybe you're leaning into the speaking more than you should be. Total quotes on the should there. Um, but I think it would be a way to balance it out. And they're like, oh, he's helping us too.
That makes sense. Thanks.
yeah, and I echo Jen's words there too. I think it's noble and you're doing it the right way, and you're concerned about, not raising red flags for the university or for higher education. So you're doing it the right way. But yeah, it's a struggle, right? Because you want to make this thing work and yet honor this whole thing over here. And so, I love what Desiree said too about, yeah, some of the feedback you're going to get is just people that are,
Oh my gosh.
how can you possibly do that? You can't be working full time and doing that because their capacity is only 40 hours a week, whereas you might have capacity for 60, 70 hours a week or more.
Yeah. Yeah. People say all the time, how did you do this? I'm like, hard work.
Right.
Like,
I know.
this is work. This is hard work. This is real work. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but this is real hard work. Yeah.
So I want to get into one more thing. I know we just have like 10, 13 more minutes or so, Sarah, but the elephant in the room, which we talk about with every speaker, is fees.
I was gonna
Um,
say, do you want to know how much money I make?
well, you don't have to
I
disclose
knew
how much
that
you
was
make. If you
coming.
want to, you can. I think even more, just more generally, like that's the question
Yeah.
we're always, it's the bane of our existence, right? Somebody
Yeah.
says, well, what's your fee? Oh, I don't want to leave money on the table, but I want to get the gig, and then I want to be
Mhm.
consistent and fee integrity. And
Yeah.
what's everybody else doing? And if I price too low, they're not going to think I'm good. And if I price too high, they're going to go another direction. And then, it's this it's just the bane of all of our existence. And so we just
Yeah.
come back and say, well, what's your budget? And because
Right.
hopefully they tell us, right? So I just kind of like, if you want to share your stuff, you're more than welcome to. But really, just even just a more general perspective on how should we be approaching fees.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's really important that I am as good as my fee, if that
Mm,
makes sense. Meaning, I never want to say I'm a this, and you hear this like, I'm a $20,000 speaker, I'm a $30,000 speaker. And I'm not, I only want to be that when I really, really, truly, fully believe that I am that. I'll tell you right now, my keynote's at 10. I have gotten more than that also, which is great. But I think of that as like my market rate. Like that's my rate. That's my rack rate. That's what when someone says we want to book you for something, my mind goes 10. It can go up or down. The cool thing is there are times where they said, here's our budget. It's more than that. I'm like, okay, great. Just zip it, stop talking then. But that's where I'm at right now. And I feel really good about that. And I'm
mm,
now at the point where I feel like it's probably time to bump up again because I've had enough success at that level. I was at really like, I was kind of 2,500 to get started and I'm 575. And now I'm at a point where I think it's time for the next level. And how I know that is there's been enough success at this level. I have never gotten feedback that I wasn't worth my fee.
mm.
And so those are the kind of things that I pay attention to. Because I think if you are charging 10 and you show up and you really weren't that great, that's your reputation again. So I think it's appropriate to charge at the level of your talent and your skill and what other clients have paid you for. and be truthful about that. And then when you see some success at that level, then bump your fee up and go to the next level. That's how I think about it.
And I think, early on in the conversation, you talked a little bit about, speaking at chambers, speaking everywhere. So obviously you're not, like some speakers are, opposed to free events, speaking for free just to get reps and
Sure.
that sort of thing. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we can expand on that, but even just people that are just starting out, they're like, man, I would love to get $500 for a talk. I'd love to get 1,500 or,
Yeah.
whatever the number is
course.
too. There's still that sort of like, I think there's still that rub of, but should I have some minimum of 2,500 or 5,000 just because I don't want people to put me in a camp of I'm a bad speaker? Like, do you have any
Right.
thoughts on like how to navigate that? Or
Yeah. At the very, very beginning, like take anything you can get. Speak for free, speak for $20, speak for lunch, like speak, just speak, get out there. Then the fees will come naturally if you're good on stage. I will say that. At some point, one of my close speaker friends said to me, like, unless you're at 7,500, they just don't treat it that seriously. And that's more at a keynote kind of level. So that number was important to me. And I was like, oh no, I want to be serious. I want to be premium. I want to ultimately be one of the best speakers. So for me, that was a threshold that was really important for me to get to kind of as quickly as possible so that I could be perceived as a really quality speaker, because I am. And I think that's important. Like when you believe that you are good enough to be at that fee, then you're ready to be at that fee and just keep raising up from there. So
I see Jen put in there the average keynote fee is 8K, was kind of from last year, I think. How much plays into it as far as like the type of speaker you want to be or who you want to speak to? Like, because I suppose, if you want to be a high level corporate leadership speaker, and if you're pricing at 5K, they're gonna assume that you're not in the mix, even though you might be the best value they ever get for 5K. If you want to speak to like frontline educators or frontline nurses for associations, that sort of thing, if you price yourself at 15K, they're gonna be like, well, we can't touch you. So
Exactly.
how much do you also kind of put into play the audiences that you're going to want to be targeting?
Yeah. This goes back to what do you want, right? So do you want to be only a keynote speaker? Do you have little kids at home and you just cannot be on the road that much? Those all play into it. Like we all have different lives and responsibilities. And I think it's really important to, if you can only do virtual, you've got little kids, like you've got to do virtual before 3 p.m. when the school bus comes. Like that is important. Might you charge less because it's virtual? Maybe you're awesome virtual and you can charge just as much. So for me, it's always about adjusting, like what else is happening right now? What season of life am I in? Literally, what season is it? I mean, in June and July and August, you can probably get a really good deal on a speaker because we're not as busy then for so many of us. My September, October, early November, like it's going to be full fee. Like it just is. I'm really busy right then. And those weeks are more valuable in the marketplace than the week of Christmas. I mean, if someone asked me to speak that week for $20, I'd be like, yeah, sure. I got nothing else going on that week. So I think fee integrity is also really important on that point. So I joke that I'll speak for $20. That's not true because I believe it's not fair for me to charge Steve $10,000 and then the next day I'm like, oh, Erica, but if you want it for $3, you can have it. So I think there does have to be an everyone talks. Everyone in this industry knows everybody else. Like I said at the beginning, your reputation is everything. So I do think it's important that there's some like minimum and standard that you feel comfortable with. Like, will I drop my fee a little bit for certain times of year? Yeah, like we all have to eat and feed our families. But I think the swing is really important. Now, I will say this. When I have something brand new, so last spring, I had some brand new content, like fresh, no one except my dog had ever heard it. It needs to get tested in the marketplace. I do not want to test brand new content on a $10,000 plus keynote stage. I do not want to do that. So that's where I utilize a local chamber, a relationship that I have with someone. Hey, can I come and do this for your group for free or for $500 or whatever low budget you might have? Because I literally just need to get this in front of audiences to see if it works. Like that's how I think about it. So you will see sometimes big names being like, I spoke at the chamber, I spoke here. Like it's probably because we're testing new content. I definitely do that.
Yeah, it's like comedians going for open mic night to test material.
Yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. And when I did that this last spring, now I have the right keynote, which is different than the one I tested in the spring. It's morphed and tweaked because of the feedback that I got, for sure.
Erica, were you going to jump in there?
Yeah, I've been listening. It's fun. By the way, I didn't realize you were in Phoenix, but we're neighbors. So I know, and you were following me. I just followed you back. So we're gonna.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
yeah.
I know. I'm like, you're talking snowstorm. I'm like, let me go check this out. Oh yeah, we're neighbors. All right, that's fun.
So funny.
Question for you. Like you, I do the speaking, the business, the workshops, the client stuff, and I'm wondering what your thinking is currently with your formula, may have morphed over time, about how many, let's say, one-off gigs you do, the ones that you know that you want to have so many that designed to spin off for work that are the work funnel versus that is the service. So this is the keynote, that's the service, that's all I'm doing without the mindset of it having to lead to something else. And I was thinking about that as you were talking about, I've got this keynote, it's the spreading of a big idea versus a practical what to do. And I'm wondering how you, if you have a formula, I imagine with productivity you do, of how you are currently thinking about strategic planning.
Yeah.
In terms of what you do in terms of capacity, but how many of those keynotes you want that are just the one and dones without the extra work, because that's often easier. That is the job. Compared to the ones that are designed, like what Desiree was saying in the chat, like the goal of it is the spinoff versus the event itself. And I'm wondering how you figured out that formula for yourself.
Sure. So I'm honestly always looking for spinoff in other business because if I'm meeting anyone, like there's a potential that we work together. So with those keynotes, while it might be one and done for that association in particular, like they're probably not going to have me keynote again next year. I'm still going, well, like who in this audience and would hire me for a workshop would hire me for something else. So I'm always thinking about it that way. Like my ecosystem, it one thing fuels the other thing and vice versa. So I'm always thinking about it that way. I will say, the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur can be super stressful. And when your spouse is like, hey, are we like going to get paid this month or not? So one of my goals was to like level that out, because especially if you're like Tom, you're probably a salaried employee, that paycheck comes every 2 weeks and we love it. Versus the roller coaster, it's a big change for your family. So what I try to do is really think about like how much money needs to come in certain months. And then Erica, the calendar really kind of is adapted from there. So I'm, booking stuff right now. We're starting to book for fall. That starts me to know like, well, how much money is coming in for fall? Now, I anchor with these bigger keynotes. So I know like September, October, like the bigger keynote, the bigger fees are coming in. And then where can I potentially add in? I'm already going to be in a certain city. What maybe smaller opportunity or like what workshop add-on can I do in that city I'm already going to? So I like in a perfect world, right? Like the keynotes kind of anchor in the calendar and then the other opportunities fill in from there. But I'm more working on like, what's my dollar amount I'm trying to hit for the month? Not so much the number of gigs, because once I know that dollar amount steady, like we've got that baseline salary that I'm going to pay myself, then the other stuff's almost like a bonus.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. So please be doing this to make money, and like the business money side of it. I think this is a super fun career. So it's really easy to be like, yeah, I'll do it for free. I'll do it for a chicken lunch. Like treat it like a business. I mean, you got to make money doing this if that's your goal, right? So
well, I don't see any. I know we got just a minute left here, Sarah. Any final words or any advice or things that you wish we would have asked you? Anything you kind of got in closing here, then we can let you go.
Well, I love this engagement, Steve. Thank you for curating such a wonderful group of people together. I said at the beginning, like I'm of service. So if there's anything I can do for you, I think one of my favorite things is when people say, hey, this person, do you mind making an introduction for me? I can't vouch for you as a speaker because I haven't seen you speak, and that matters to me, except Steve I've seen speak. But if I can make an introduction, just as a pure introduction, I'm more than happy to do that. So please use me for that.
All
And with
right.
that,
Well,
my
I put
my
Sarah's
dog is
in.
now chiming in. So
I put your LinkedIn in the chat. Any other ways that people should connect with you, or you have a newsletter or anything that people might want to join or anything, or just put
yeah,
it in?
everything's pretty much there. And then I've got 2 websites, which is also something important maybe to consider from your marketing assets. So I've got sarahohanesian.com. That's my speaker website. And then so-productive.com is my business. So that's how I set it up. Like you do you, but that's what works for me.
I'll put those in the chat as well. But Sarah, thank you so much. You are awesome as always. Thanks for taking the time.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you on LinkedIn. Take
All
care.
right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Well, I will stop recording there.